Hello and welcome back to my channel, Crafty Concepts with Erin. Today we are going to create a card with this Fabulous Flamingo stamp set here. I personally think this little flamingo is such a cute little guy, and you can get this stamp set. I've already used it quite a bit so it's stained, but you can get this with or without the coordinating thin cuts. So to create today's card project, you will need a piece of sweet leaf cardstock. And then I have the white daisy that I've punched out with our thin cut, and this is from the current mix-in paper pack. And then you will need a white daisy circle here. So I've added the stitching detail by using our stitched rectangle frames. You can see I used the largest one and I love it. It adds so much detail to these layers. And then the largest circle for our stitched circle there. The ink colors are New England Ivy, Sweet Leaf, and Smoothie. So you can see I have both the new and the ones on top here, the older style ink pads, and I love the upgrades. The new ones are fantastic. Very easy to open. You're also going to need a few pieces of scrap white daisy for our stamping. I'm going to bring in my VersaMat, flip it over because we have that nice cushy foam on the background that's perfect for stamping. I'm going to start with the sweet leaf color, and we're going to use this tropical leaf image here. Now I want you to stamp 4 of these. I'm going to just turn them, it doesn't matter how you stamp them. You just want to leave enough room in between the images so you can get your die cut around it without interfering with the other stamped image. So I'm going to clean that off with my stamp Shammy before I put that back on the carrier sheet, and then we will move to this second little foliage, and for this one I'm using the New England Ivy. So we have a couple different shades of green. Now if you only had one ink pad, you can do first and second generation stamping to give a little variance in between the two, but these are, I like to add the dark green with that sweet leaf. It looks really nice in contrast. So we've stamped 4 of those, and now I'm going to use the Smoothie and this tiny little flower image, and I want 3 of the smoothie colored flowers. So 1, 2, 3. So we can set those aside. We just need to stamp our little flamingo character, and then we can die cut all of these out. I definitely like to clean the stamps as you go. It makes it much easier in the end. So I want to show you a trick. Now I've showed this before, but it's been a little while. So this flamingo character has kind of spindly legs, and it can be kind of hard to line the coordinating dies up with these images. So what I like to do for foolproof perfect stamping every time is line it up on the back of the carrier sheet here, and then use your block to pick it up. So you know that's going to fit that die cut image perfectly every time. I'm using our intense black ink because this is alcohol marker friendly, and I'm going to color our flamingo in here in just a moment. So we're going to press down, wait a good moment to allow the ink to soak into the paper and get a good crisp image. And now we're ready to color this in. I'm going to zoom it in, and I have my pale pink Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend marker. Now I am by no means a professional color artist, or I don't even know what you would call it, but I love these markers because they take the guesswork out of it and really help you get that shading without really knowing what you're doing. There's the light, the medium, and the dark all in one marker. So again, it takes the guesswork out of it, and you can kind of imagine where the light is coming from, and that's where you're going to use your lighter color. So I've gone around the back side of the bird with the darker shade, and then you layer the medium, and then you're going to go over it with the lightest color, making sure to go back over where you've colored to blend in all of those lines. And as the alcohol kind of evaporates and dries, it smooths and blends the image even further. I'm going to add just a touch of black to his little beak here. There's just this little upper portion by his eye. And there, all done. So now we can line our die cut, and we know it's going to work perfectly because of that little trick we did. Use a little post-it removable tape, and now I'm going to die cut all of these images off camera. So we can flip our VersaMat over because we're done with our stamping. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring in all of those die cut images. Here's our perfect flamingo here. He looks fabulous, Fabulous Flamingo. And then we have all of the bits and pieces that we stamped. So you can see I did 4 each of those leaves, and I know I'm breaking my own rules. I always say you have to have odd numbers, but it'll make sense in a minute what we're doing. So stay tuned. After we create this card, I have 2 more cards to show you that I have used or created with this stamp set. So you can use either side. There's a striped side or this kind of little triangle pattern. You just want to layer these pieces up. I'm leaving just a little white on the left hand side. And before we adhere our circle down, we want to stamp our sentiment on there. So I'm using our regular exclusive black ink for this and picking up my stamped image, just making sure it's lined up on the block there. And now I'm going to practice on a piece of printer paper first, and it looks good. So we'll bring in our little foam cushion and stamp "You Are Fabulous," and that looks great. Now we're ready to adhere this little guy down. I like to stamp first because when you layer the paper up, you would have little edges under there and you might not get a crisp image. So that's why we stamp before we glue that down. Now for the leaves, I'm going to use this Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, and this gives you a second to kind of move them around. I'm just playing with the placement before I commit, and then I just put a little glue. I need a new bottle, it looks like. It's a nightmare to run out of adhesive. I'm just putting a little glue on the bottom portion of the leaves, and that way the top can kind of bend up a little bit and add some life to the card. So we're just going around, and now I'm going to layer in this second type of foliage there. Tuck that in between so you can see where it looks really nice to have those contrasting colors. We'll put another little, I'm going to call it a fern. It kind of has fern-like leaves. And then we'll do another one, and this one kind of elongates it so it adds some interest. Instead of having matching clusters on the top and bottom, we're making them a little different. And then before I adhere this down, I want to place my flamingo to make sure it's not going to cover too much of those leaf images. And now I can go ahead and get that tacked down into place. And again, just placing my flamingo, I can tuck this right there. So yes, I had an even amount of leaves, but if you look, we have 3 clusters around the circle. So it makes sense, back to that rule of using odd numbers. So now I have these 3 flowers in Smoothie. I went ahead and glued that one down, and actually I want to wipe this glue off because I changed my mind and I want to pop that up with some dimensional foam. So our dimensional foam tears very easily. You can just tear little squares and layer that right up there, and then this one I'm going to, if I can hang on to it, place this one on the lower portion of our circle. And now we're ready for our little Fabulous Flamingo. I'm going to put dimensional foam on the body and the back of the head. I don't worry about the legs. It would be difficult to get, you know, they're very thin, and it's okay. The main portion of the flamingo is elevated, and that works for me. So you can see we still need to put this on our card base. So I have our A2 sized card from our value pack, and this is pre-scored and ready to go. We'll just center this so we have a nice white margin. It's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and just adding another layer. And now for a finishing touch, I have our silver Stickles glitter gel, and I'm just going to apply a little of this to our flower center. Now this does take a little bit to dry, so keep that in mind. You want to set the card aside for maybe an hour or so. So you can see, it's hard to see the sparkle in that glitter gel, but it does add a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at those other 2 cards I created. This one's a lot of fun. It was inspired by some artwork I saw on Pinterest, and I've used that same mix-in paper pack, the back side of it. This is a top folding note card, and this just is single layer stamping. The flamingo and the leaves are stamped on the right, directly on the white daisy, and then I've heat embossed the sentiment onto black cardstock. This one's kind of a hybrid between the 2 cards. I've done that same pattern paper on the side, but dovetailing the end on this one, and then we repeated this stamping method around the white daisy to create the background piece there. So these are just all fun cards that you can change up the sentiment and have them be anything you'd like them to be. This Fabulous Flamingo stamp set is available in the July and August catalog, so be sure to grab yours while it's available. Here's some more videos I know you will enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.